Discover the incredible journey of a housekeeper's son, 9 languages revealed, shocking a million. Carlos stood on the cracked asphalt, flanked by wealth and privilege he could almost taste but couldn't touch. A housekeeper's son in a world of pristine mansions, he always felt the weight of dreams pressing down on him, dreams that shimmered with every sunrise. His mother had cleaned those homes for years, stripping away the dirt, only for Carlos to find the language of wealth hidden behind polished doors. But he had a gift. With a stack of library books and a fierce determination, he absorbed languages like a sponge. 9 languages, from Spanish to Mandarin, flowed from his tongue, each one a key to a door he longed to open. As the summer sun heated the streets, Carlos's heart raced with ambition and dread. He had earned a scholarship to a prestigious university, an opportunity few on his side of town got to experience. Yet, the shiny cars lining the parking lot made his chest tighten, the whispering kids with their confident slang left him feeling like a ghost drifting through halls that didn't want him. Despite the warmth of his mother's sacrifices alive in his chest, each social gathering pushed him further from what he longed for. Then came the announcement, a global conference showcasing student talents. A chance to stand tall, to elevate himself above the prejudices that cloaked his past. Excitement coursed through him, but shadows loomed where whispers revealed assumptions based on the color of his skin and the struggle of his family. It only took one moment for a classmate, someone he thought might understand, to scorn him under the bright fluorescent lights. "You really think you belong here, Carlos?" they'd said, and the laughter that followed crumbled his resolve. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With an unexpected wave of support from his friends and community, Carlos started to find his footing. Their voices rallied behind him, lifting him as he fought to claim his space. Yet in the depths of his heart, he grappled with the looming dread of being enough, of not just excelling but belonging in this world of privilege. The day of the conference arrived, a day that shimmered with the kind of hope he thought only existed in dreams. Carlos stood center stage, the crowd's energy like electricity in the air, but doubt clawed at him. Would they see him for the person he was, or the label society had stuck to him? As he took a deep breath and opened his mouth to speak, everything hung in precarious balance. Would his courage break through those barriers? Would he, a housekeeper's son, unite a divided audience and prove that dreams are for everyone, no matter where they start? The moment felt alive as he began, and all eyes were on him, waiting for the story of resilience to unfold. Carlos felt the weight of the microphone surrounding him, gathering every nuance of his trembling voice. Deep breaths didn't seem like enough. He glanced at the crowd, their faces a blur of curiosity and skepticism. It was shocking how the weight of their expectations wedged itself deep in his throat. The bright lights shone down like the harsh spotlight of judgment, but he forced himself to focus on the story he had to tell. As he began to speak, the practiced words tumbled out of him, holding the rhythm of his heartbeat. He shared tales of late nights spent studying, the smell of old library books, and the moments when frustration turned into determination. He spoke of his mother, who had spent long hours cleaning, reminding him that education was his ticket to breaking free. The honor and her sacrifices echoed within him as he painted pictures with his words, but then, a sudden hush came over the crowd, as if his voice had drawn them in. He shifted, warmed by the realization that maybe they were listening. One story led to another, and before long he was talking about the times he had felt inadequate and lost. With every sentence, he chipped away at the invisible walls. "I may not wear the same clothes or drive the same cars," he said, "but my story is just as important." Carlos's confidence grew, inch by inch, as he saw the glint of understanding spark in their eyes. Some of them shifted in their seats, caught off guard by the weight of the truth he was laying bare. The laughter that had once taunted him faded behind heartfelt expressions, something akin to silent respect beginning to weave itself into the atmosphere. There's a language that transcends words, he continued, his voice steadying, and that's the language of resilience. His heart raced as he saw classmates lean in, nodding their heads in connection. Familiar feelings flooded back as he spoke of unity, friendship, and the shared humanity that bound them all, but suddenly, a voice shot out from the back. "So what? You think that makes you one of us?" The jeering tone sliced through the warm air, dropping a chill over the hopeful crowd. Carlos's heart sank as he locked eyes with some of the faces who had once laughed with that same derision. Doubt crept in, creeping like a vine wrapping around his insecurities. He felt the walls closing back in, the doubts resurfacing, yet, something in him sparked an ember refusing to die. "No," Carlos replied, his voice stronger this time. "It doesn't make me one of you. It makes me me. And that's enough." He felt the heaviness of every gaze fixated on him, slowly shifting from judgment to intrigue. With renewed passion, he pushed through, recounting the beauty of differences and how they enriched the tapestry of life. A pulsing sense of visibility enveloped him, not just as a housekeeper's son but as a voice that mattered. The crowd began to lean in closer. And just like that, the atmosphere morphed, blossoming with a sense of understanding, as if each person slowly peeled away their preconceived ideas. But would this breakthrough be enough to bridge the divide? As he finished his story, the applause that erupted was thunderous, yet Carlos's chest felt tight with uncertainty. Did the moment truly belong to him, or was it just a fleeting illusion? His eyes scanned the audience, searching for signs of acceptance or dismissal, and then he spotted his mother, standing proud at the back with tears shimmering in her eyes. Did he dare hope that this journey, marked with pain and prejudice, might somehow lead him to a place of belonging? Could he transform the painful echoes of doubt into a stepping stone for himself and others like him? As the applause thundered on, Carlos realized this was only the beginning of something far more extraordinary. Would he seize this chance to inspire change beyond that stage? The thought hung in the air as the world around him buzzed with energy, and for the first time, he felt the delicate threads of possibility weaving together a future he dared to dream about. The noise of applause echoed in Carlos's ears, but it felt distant, almost muffled. He stood there, heart racing, overwhelmed by the mix of excitement and dread. Did they really understand him? Did they feel the weight of his words? He could still see his mother, tears glistening, urging him silently to believe in himself. As the audience began to disperse, a wave of students approached him. Their faces, once clouded with skepticism, were now painted with admiration. A girl he recognized from his chemistry class stepped forward, her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. "That was incredible, Carlos. I had no idea you've lived through so much. It made me think about my own story." She blinked rapidly, as if holding back tears, her voice a little shaky. "Thank you," he managed, a small smile creeping onto his face. One by one, others began to share their own experiences, weaving tales of struggle and resilience. A tall boy with broad shoulders spoke of his own battles with anxiety, while another girl recounted her family's challenges after moving to a new country. As they spoke, Carlos felt a warmth unfurl in his chest. This was connection, real connection. "It's like we're all fighting our own wars," Carlos said, his voice shaking slightly but steady. "But it's our stories that bind us." More heads nodded in agreement, and each confession melted away the fears and doubts he had carried so long. The collective pulse of their vulnerability created a tapestry of humanity that intertwined with his own. Every moment felt electric, pain transformed into strength, laughter woven into tears, yet, even amidst this newfound bond, a lingering doubt clung to Carlos. He worried whether this honesty would stick with them or fade into the air like smoke. Would they remember his story tomorrow when the school bell rang? Or would they go back to their lives, leaving him behind? The crowd began to dissipate, but a few remained, still lingering, wanting more. One of his former classmates, a girl who used to smirk at him in the hallways, stepped closer. I think you really opened my eyes. I'm sorry for how I treated you. It feels different now. Like I understand. The vulnerability in her voice surprised him. Thanks, that means a lot, Carlos replied, his heart swelling. He felt like he had pulled something good out of the darkness, something nobody could take away from him, but as the last of the crowd pulled away, doubt tugged at him again. Did forgiveness erase the past? Could he really change the minds and hearts of those who had caused him pain? Would they stand by him tomorrow if he needed them? His thoughts swirled as he walked off the stage, the familiarity of the corridor greeting him again. But this time, he was not alone anymore. People he barely knew were smiling at him, nodding in acknowledgement. Glancing back toward the auditorium, a sudden idea gripped him. This couldn't just end with one story. There was power in every voice that had been uplifted today, and he thought about the other kids who felt invisible like he once had. What if we created a platform, he whispered to himself, excitement bubbling within him. Could they hold a forum? Would students share their stories together? Carlos's heart raced again, not with doubt, but with possibility. As he left the stage behind, he could hear their murmurs, the inklings of community sparking around him. But could he really rally them around such an idea? His pulse quickened as he stepped outside, ready to take the first step into this new adventure. This was not just about him anymore, it was about giving everyone a chance to be heard. At that moment, he felt the magnetic pull of hope drawing him forward. What would happen next? Would he be able to encourage others to open up and be part of this change? Carlos stepped into the sunlight, its warmth washing over him like a comforting embrace. The world outside felt alive, buzzing with energy. Students filled the courtyard, laughter and chatter blending into a lively orchestra. Yet, amidst the noise, all he could think about was the spark he wanted to ignite. He made his way over to a small group huddled near a bench. They were laughing, but not in a mocking way. Instead, it felt light, spontaneous. As he approached, their laughter faded, replaced by curious glances. He took a deep breath, his heart thumping against his chest. "Hey, do you all have a minute?" He called out, trying to keep his voice steady. The group exchanged glances, and then a girl with curly hair nodded. "Sure, Carlos. What's up?" He felt the weight of their eyes, and the familiar knot of anxiety formed in his stomach. But he pushed it aside, focusing on the idea brewing inside him. "I was thinking, what if we created a space where everyone could share their stories? Like an open forum. Sharing what we've been through, you know? It could really help us all connect." Their expressions shifted from curiosity to intrigue. The boy to the side, who was usually quiet, leaned forward. "You mean like a storytelling night?" "Exactly," Carlos exclaimed, feeling the energy building. "We could set it up regularly. Make it a safe space. A chance to be heard. I think it could change how we see each other." The girl with curly hair's eyes lit up. "That sounds amazing. I'd totally join in." "I will too," another student chimed in, enthusiasm bubbling up in his voice. "I've got stuff to share. It'd be nice to let it out." Carlos felt a rush of relief mixed with excitement. This could become something. He blinked back tears as a wave of gratitude hit him. "Really? You all would do that? Why not?" The boy shrugged, a smile growing on his face. "It's way better than sitting around in silence." As the group started brainstorming ideas, Carlos couldn't believe how easy it was. Questions bounced around. Where would they meet? How often? Who else might want to join? The excitement brewed, filling the air around them with possibility, but as giddy as he felt, doubt creeped in again. What if not enough people showed up? What if they didn't really care, and he was left standing alone, waiting for voices that never came? He knew they had shared that moment in the auditorium, but would they stick around for their stories? He pushed those thoughts away as the conversation flowed. They laughed and planned, joining in a collective breath of hope. But deep down, Carlos also felt a sharp edge of fear. What would happen when it came time for him to share again? Would he be able to stay strong, or would the weight of his past pull him back into doubt? He had to be vulnerable once more, exposed in a way that terrified him. The idea of vulnerability loomed over him as everyone began to disperse, adrenaline still running high. But when the crowd finally scattered, an unexpected voice broke through his thoughts. It was the girl who had once mocked him, now standing beside him again. "Carlos, this is a big step. Just remember, you're not alone in this. We're all a bit broken, but together, we can really do something special." Her sincerity caught him off guard. In that moment, something shifted inside him. Maybe he didn't have to carry all the weight alone. Maybe this could be the beginning of something greater than himself. But how would he face the ghosts of his past when it was his turn to reveal his story? As he looked around at the faces of students who once seemed so distant, he felt the stirrings of courage rising within him. Could he truly lead this movement? Could he become the voice that inspired others? With determination deep in his heart, he turned back to the bustling school, ready to spread the word about their storytelling night. Suddenly, a deeper question hit him like a wave. Would they embrace their past and allow it to change them for the better? Or would fear hold them back? Carlos began to walk, each step booming with potential, but uncertainty lingered, waiting to be answered. What lay ahead for their forum, and for him? Would they take the leap together, or would silence prevail once more? The next day, the air buzzed with anticipation. Carlos arrived early at the school, heart racing. The sun cast long shadows, and he stood outside the gym where they had decided to hold the storytelling night. His mind danced with thoughts. What if no one came? What if the gym remained empty, echoing only his insecurities? As students trickled in, his stomach twisted in knots. They carried books and guitars, backpacks slung over their shoulders, but all he could see were the voices he hoped would fill the room. The gym was alive with buzzing chatter, but would it carry the weight of their stories? The girl with curly hair spotted him first. "Carlos," she called out, waving his way. Her smile radiated warmth. "I'm glad you're here. Are you ready for tonight?" He took a deep breath, forcing himself to smile back. "I think so. Just nervous, you know. Totally normal," she said, her enthusiasm unwavering. "You're doing something really brave. We're all behind you." Her words wrapped around him like a shield, dispelling some of the fears swirling in his mind. He didn't have to do this alone. They were in this together. More students began to gather, forming smaller circles as excitement bubbled in the air. They shared their thoughts, nervous laughs punctuating the vibrations of the gym. He listened as they tossed around ideas. Who should go first? What stories might be shared? "That's what makes it special," Carlos said, lifting his voice to be heard over the chatter. "Everyone's story is worth hearing. We each have our own battles, our own victories. Tonight is about opening up." The boy who had been quiet the day before nodded in agreement. "Yeah. And it's not just about the stories. It's about understanding each other. Building something together." Carlos felt the spark of energy ignite once more. This was it. So much promise swirled around them as they settled into a circle, the room buzzing with hopeful anticipation. As the clock neared the scheduled start time, a hush fell over the crowd. Carlos could feel the weight of every pair of eyes upon him. He stood, heart thudding like a drum. Raising his hands, he could feel the tremor in his fingers, but he pushed through. "Welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful you're here. This what we're doing tonight isn't just about sharing words, it's about connection." As he spoke, he glanced at the faces in front of him, curious, anxious, supportive. Sharing what we've been through can help break down walls. The girl with curly hair nudged him gently, nodding for him to go on. "We need to hear each other's stories. Each voice matters." But remember, if you're going to share, it's okay to feel vulnerable. We're here to listen, support, and lift each other up. Carlos gestured for anyone who wanted to share first. Silence fell, electric with potential. He could sense the hesitation in the air, like a collective holding of breath. Then a hand shot up. It was the quiet boy. "I'll go," he said, surprising everyone, including himself. There was a beat of silence before a wave of encouraging whispers washed over the group. Carlos's heart soared. They were ready to share their truths. This breakthrough sparked courage, and soon enough one story turned into another, the gym slowly filling with raw emotion unveiled, but as the stories flowed, Carlos felt the familiar tug of his own past begin to whisper in the back of his mind. Would he be able to share? Or would he falter, retreat into himself, leaving others to brave the vulnerability he feared so desperately? As the first story ended and applause rang through the gym, the familiar weight settled over him once more. What if the moment came and he couldn't find the words? What if his voice shook, betraying the strength he was trying to project? As the next storyteller took the floor, Carlos took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. He could feel the ground beneath him solid and reassuring. This wasn't just his stage, it was theirs. The atmosphere was alive, filled with stories and hearts eager to connect. Yet there was still that flutter of fear and doubt. What if he stumbled? What if his past defined him, echoing louder than the supportive voices around him? His heartbeat quickened as he considered stepping forward. When would it be time for him to share? Would he find the strength to face his ghosts while everyone else was looking on? Each story shared seemed to echo a challenge in his mind. Carlos, how will you dare to step into your own light? As the next storyteller finished, the energy in the gym was palpable. Applause broke out, and the echoes of support cascaded around Carlos, lifting the spirits of everyone there. The quiet boy had shared a heartfelt account of his struggles, not just the battles at school, but those echoing from home, tinged with heartbreak and resilience. It was a beautiful beginning, and the ripple of courage was infectious. Carlos sat in a state of rapture, the warmth of their community surrounding him like a beacon. He could see students exchanging glances, nodding in understanding, sharing silent promises of support. Each story unfolded like a tapestry, colorful and rich with emotion. Yet, somewhere deep inside him, a storm was brewing. What if his story wasn't enough? What if they saw through him, beneath his bravado and friendly facade, to the shadow lurking just out of reach? He wanted to contribute to the circle, to share his struggles, his truths, but doubt clawed at his resolve like a persistent itch he couldn't scratch. Next. The girl with curly hair called, grinning wide, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Her spirit was contagious, pushing Carlos closer to the edge. It stirred something inside him, a rumble of urgency. He wanted to speak. He needed to speak. He felt the heat rise in his cheeks as he fought the panic beginning to bubble up. This wasn't just about him, it was about everyone in that room. His friends needed to see that it was okay to be vulnerable, to be brave despite the fear. A girl with bright blue nails stood up, her voice trembling at first. I want to share too. She spoke of losing her father unexpectedly, the shadows of grief creeping into her life. She cried but smiled through the tears, her honesty resonating deeply. As she transitioned from sorrowful memories to moments of joy and love, the connection in the room tightened and glimmered. Carlos clutched the edge of his seat, balancing on the precipice of his emotions. With each story shared, he could taste the sweetness and the bitterness of their lives. What he had witnessed tonight was something extraordinary, a raw connection he had yearned for but never quite understood. Then it happened. The spotlight shifted back to him, the room suddenly focused, eyes eager and encouraging. The girl with curly hair raised her eyebrows, breaking the silence. Carlos, do you want to go next? He could feel the weight of their expectations. Heart racing, he rose slowly, slipping out of his chair. The crowd's warmth enveloped him as he took a step toward the center. His palms were clammy, and the words he rehearsed 1,000 times scattered like leaves in a gust of wind. "Hey there," he started, his voice barely more than a whisper. The room grew still. "I'm Carlos." It felt strange introducing himself. The who I am loomed large, threatening to swallow him whole. "I've never really shared my story before," he admitted, looking at the faces in front of him, searching for a sign of understanding or kindness. He hesitated. The fears loomed in his mind, but he pressed forward. "I mean, everyone thinks I have it all figured out. Good grades, friends." He paused, the honesty tasting raw in his mouth. "But things aren't always easy. At home, it's different. Sometimes, I feel like I'm stuck between worlds." He looked down briefly, collecting his breath, the energy shifted, urging him on. "My family struggles to make ends meet. My dad works long hours. He's my hero, but sometimes I feel like his burden," Carlos said, his voice breaking, but he wouldn't shy away. In that moment, it was the most profound honesty he had ever shared. His heart raced as he laid his soul bare. Would they understand? As murmurs of encouragement washed over him, he continued, "I want to break free from the shadow of expectations to find my light without losing my roots." And as he spilled out his hopes and fears, he realized that the weight on his chest began to lift. There were hands reaching out not just to listen, but to connect. He took a step back, breathless, and looked at that circle of supportive faces. The courage he found was unlike anything he had felt before. He saw the reflection of his truth mirrored in their eyes, a recognition, an acknowledgement that they were all struggling in their own ways. As applause erupted, Carlos felt something behind his ribcage shift. What had once been a whisper of doubt turned into a roar of possibility. Maybe he wasn't just the sum of his fears after all. "Wow," the girl with curly hair said, her voice breaking through the applause. "That was amazing." But even as the warmth surged through him, a thought lingered. Carlos had liberated a part of himself, yet there was still a story within him that yearned to be told. What piece of him had yet to break free? With the momentum building around him, Carlos felt a strange mix of excitement and uncertainty. What would he discover as he dared to venture deeper into the uncharted territory of his own story? The next storyteller stepped up, ready to share, and as Carlos sat back down, he knew the journey had only just begun. The next storyteller, a tall boy with shaggy hair and an oversized sweater, cleared his throat. As he began to speak, Carlos leaned back in his seat, still buzzing from his own moment at the center. The boy's voice was steady, but there was an underlying tremor of anxiety as he recalled his experience being bullied for being different. "I used to think I was alone in my struggle," he said, looking around the room. "But then I realized everyone has something. Everyone has scars." There were nods from various corners of the gym, an unspoken agreement hanging in the air. This was what they were here for, connection. As the boy spoke about finding solace in art, Carlos couldn't help but admire the way vulnerability could forge bonds. It made him wonder if he could share more, delve deeper into the experiences and emotions he carried. But would they still embrace him if they saw all of him? The memories flooded back, days when the laughter of his mom echoed through their small apartment, and nights when silence cloaked them like a dark cloud. He gulped, pushing the thoughts aside. It wasn't the time to go back to those places yet. When the boy finished, the room erupted into applause, and once again, Carlos felt the collective energy lift. Someone else stood up, an unexpected voice coming from the corner, a quiet girl known for her photography. "I want to go next," she said softly, almost shyly. As she shared her story, she spoke about how an image could tell 1,000 words, how capturing moments on her camera brought her closer to understanding herself. Her honesty illuminated the corners of unspoken fears. She was an artist, and through her lens, she discovered the beauty in brokenness. Carlos found himself captivated. Every story shared was a puzzle piece, revealing a bigger picture of what it meant to be human. Yet, the intimate connection mirrored back at him a truth he hadn't fully accepted. Each of them had their fears, all he had to do was embrace his as the night wore on. Stories of triumph and heartache wove through the gym, leaving Carlos pondering the breadth of his own experience. A sense of urgency tinged with hope began to pulse through him. He had opened a door, but what lay beyond it? How could he express the beauty of pain alongside the strength of hope? The girl with curly hair, ever in tune, turned to him once more. "Carlos," she said gently. "You know you can share whatever is on your mind. It's a safe space. Don't hold back." Her words lingered in the air, heavy and full of love. Carlos's heart raced. It was an invitation, a chance to breach the last walls he held tightly around his heart. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, contemplating whether to jump into the unknown or retreat back into safety. Just then, a commotion at the entrance pulled his attention. A familiar face appeared, his younger sister Maya, her eyes wide with excitement and a bit of worry. She waved, catching Carlos's gaze. In that moment, everything shifted. The warmth of the room merged with the love he felt for her, igniting a flame of resolve in his chest. What had been hidden began to bubble to the surface. Would he speak about the times he had felt lost and found himself through her laughter? Would he dare share the beautiful intricacies of living with the weight of responsibility, wrapped in the joy they brought each other? Taking a deep breath, he stood up once again. The moment felt alive, electric, pushing him towards something he had previously shied away from. "I want to tell you all something," he began, his voice steadier this time, finding strength in the love that surrounded him. But would the truths he shared bring them closer, or pull him further into the depths of vulnerability? As silence fell over the crowd, they leaned forward, ready to listen to Carlos's heart unfold, eager for the next revelation in his journey. Carlos's heart raced like a drum in his chest, amplified by the stillness in the gym. He glanced briefly at Maya, her eyes filled with encouragement, and it gave him a surge of confidence. "It's not always easy," he began, hesitating for just a moment. "My mom worked long hours cleaning houses. There was a time when we barely scraped by. I remember waiting for her in the dim light of our living room, counting the minutes, the shadows growing longer, holding on to hope." He closed his eyes for a brief second, letting the memory settle before opening them again to look around the room. "I guess I learned the most about strength from her. Each day, she'd walk in exhausted but always smiling. I watched her push through the tiredness and the hard days, and she somehow made it seem like everything was going to be okay." Those comfortable echoes of their shared life settled in the arena they created together. The crowd was with him, listening intently. He felt their support coat him like a warm blanket, keeping away the chill of vulnerability. What a lot of people don't understand is that there's beauty in struggle, there's beauty in being different, in having to fight for your place in this world. "My mom taught me that you don't need to fit the mold, you just need to be yourself." A gentle wave of nods rippled through the audience, and he felt a comforting pulse of understanding return. Carlos's mind raced, wanting to dive deeper. But sometimes, it felt too heavy. "I worried about the weight on my shoulders, the dreams I held that felt too big. I mean, being a kid, you think about the future, right? What happens after high school? Can I make it to college? And would my mom be proud?" His voice began to rise, laced with urgency. "There were nights I cried myself to sleep, terrified I would let her down. Then, I would wake up to her laughter and suddenly the future didn't seem so frightening." He swallowed hard, emotions surging, wrestling his vulnerability bravely. "Every moment led to another, and here I am, sharing my story with you. That's how I keep her close. I celebrate her resilience every day, and I want to carry that into my future, my dreams." As his words settled, the audience sat still, but it was the brush of a tear on Maya's cheek that brought a rush of warmth to his heart. What had once felt like a burden was now a flame he could actually embrace. "I hope that my story reminds you to share your own. This is our space, our time. You never know who else needs to hear your experience. We all have those moments of feeling alone, but together, in this room we're not. We're here to weave our stories into something beautiful." A wave of applause erupted, vibrations filling the air like music. Yet within him, the battle wasn't over. There was more he wanted to say, more he needed to reveal, but he hesitated. The embrace of their shared energy both buoyed him and pulled at his heart. Did he dare talk about the struggles he bought in bulk? Self-doubt, fear of the future? Could he expose that rawness? He took a slow breath, knowing a choice lay ahead. As the applause faded, Carlos locked eyes with Maya once more. She nodded, her silent encouragement urging him on. The room quieted again, but this time, it wasn't the tension of uncertainty, it was that holding your breath moment before a new leap. Taking another step toward the edge, he prepared to reveal the final piece of himself. Was he ready to share the depth of his fears and dreams? What awaited him on the other side of this revelation might change everything. Would they still stand by him when he unveiled the parts he kept hidden? Let me tell you about the time I thought I lost everything, he began, as collective breath held tight around him, on the verge of discovering more than just his own story. When I thought I lost everything, it was a day so vivid that it plays in my mind like a movie on repeat, Carlos continued, his voice steady. The gym fell into a profound silence, every ear trained on him, every heart synchronized with his rhythm. It was the summer before my senior year. I had just finished a grueling summer job, trying to save money for college. I hadn't seen my mom for days as she worked 2 shifts to cover our rent. When I got home that night, I noticed something was off. The door was ajar, and an overwhelming sense of unease washed over me. Carlos took a breath, recalling the moment with clarity. I stepped inside, my pulse quickening. The house was empty, silent, but the air was thick with an unsettling heaviness. I called out for her, my voice echoing in the stillness. No answer. That was when I saw it. The envelope lying on the kitchen table. My heart sank. It was a notice, a warning that we were behind on payments. He clenched his fists, the memory igniting anger mixed with fear. For a moment, the world narrowed down to that single piece of paper. All my plans, everything felt like they were unraveling. I thought about how hard my mom worked and the dreams I had for both of us. It crushed me to think that our home might be stripped away because of my dreams. A murmur rippled through the crowd, empathy palpable. Carlos could see the concern etched across their faces, a reflection of his turmoil. But that night forced me to confront my fears. I sat there, tearing up the envelope, determined to find a solution. It was then that I realized I couldn't just sit back and let life decide for me. I had to choose my path. So, I took a deep breath and made calls, reached out to every local organization I could think of. I found support, resources I never knew existed. They helped negotiate with our landlord, and slowly, things started to change. He paused, letting the weight of his journey settle. That experience taught me resilience in ways I never imagined. I had thought I was the one standing up for my mom, but in reality, she was standing up for me all along. She had shown me how to fight, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. As he shared that truth, Carlos noticed the glint in Maya's eyes as if she understood the depth of his revelation. Trust flowed between them like an unbreakable bond. The audience too felt it, a connection that went beyond words, transcending simply hearing a story to stepping into a life. I want you all to know that no matter how heavy life's burdens feel, you can always find a way to rise. It doesn't matter your age, your background, or where you started. Each of us has a choice to face our fears and keep moving forward. Carlos could sense the shifting mood, a collective strength spiraling through the space. Faces were lit up with determination, nods of understanding replacing looks of despair. And remember, he added, a familiar fire igniting in his chest, our struggles shape us, but they don't define us. We can rewrite the narratives of our lives to reflect courage, not fear. As he finished, silence wrapped around him once more. The warmth of shared stories danced in the air. I invite you all to reflect, what story are you bringing to the table today? What will you do to keep moving forward? With those final words, a wave of applause erupted once again, but Carlos felt something different this time, a powerful resonance of hope and community. Would they take those vulnerable reflections beyond the confines of this gym? Would his narrative inspire someone else to write their own? The thought filled him with anticipation. What stories lurked within them, waiting for their moment to be shared? The night had transformed into something Carlos couldn't have dreamed of. Each story shared wove together into a vibrant tapestry of resilience, empathy, and connection. The gym pulsed with newfound purpose, and he felt lighter than air, buoyed by a collective energy that lifted even the heaviest of burdens. As applause continued to echo around him, Carlos looked over at Maya, her face lit with pride. It felt as if she too was gathering courage from all those stories, from every triumphant confession. The weight of their journey as a family, the struggles intertwined with laughter, was becoming a beacon of hope not just for them, but for everyone who listened. With the spotlight dimming his nervous energy, Carlos was approached by a group of students. They surrounded him, faces glowing with excitement. The girl with curly hair beamed, "You did it. You really brought us together." A wave of warmth coursed through him. "Yeah, it felt incredible," Carlos replied, still buzzing from the connection he'd fostered that evening. Another student chimed in, "I never knew how much we all had in common. Your story made me think about my own struggles, and it helps to know I'm not alone." Each comment wrapped around his heart, reminding him of why he had stood on that stage, why he had dared to reveal his truth. They weren't just strangers anymore, they were a community. As the crowd began to disperse, Carlos could feel hope swelling in his chest. This was just the beginning. What if we make storytelling night a regular thing? He proposed, excitement spilling from his lips. Imagine how many stories are out there waiting to be heard. The students erupted in encouragement. "Absolutely. Let us do it." Someone called out and another added, "We can spread the word. This can become something bigger than ourselves." Eager voices bounced off the walls, plans forming in real time. Carlos watched in awe as the shy classmates he had once feared stood tall, suddenly sparkling with ideas and dreams of their own. As they made plans to hold the next storytelling night, a feeling of determination took hold. No longer just a housekeeper's son, Carlos was now integral to something much grander. This wasn't just about him or the challenges they faced, it was about building a bridge so that every story had a chance to transform lives, his included. Amid the laughter and chatter, Carlos's heart swelled with gratitude. Perhaps every shadow he had endured paved the way to the light he felt now. Connected, hopeful, and eager to keep this journey alive. The ghost of self-doubt lingered, but beneath it lay a vibrant flame, an insatiable need to tell his story, and encourage others to find their own voices. The next day, Carlos woke up with an unyielding sense of purpose. He could hear his mother humming in the kitchen, a melody that filled their home with warmth. He stepped into the sunlight, feeling its embrace, a reminder that every beginning follows a struggle. Today was not just another day, it was an opportunity to grow, to reach out, to inspire. As he walked into school, he was greeted by acknowledging nods from the students who had listened. No longer were they just faces in the hallway, they felt like teammates in this journey of transformation. Carlos's eyes fell on the flyer for the next storytelling night taped to a bulletin board, and he couldn't help but smile. This was real. In that moment, Carlos knew he'd carry this mission forward and lead with his heart. The fear of not belonging had given way to a belief that he truly could change the narrative for himself and others. He felt ready to step beyond the shadows, inviting everyone to embrace their own stories, the laughter, the pain, the beauty, and the lessons learned. As he made his way to class, he turned back to see Maya waving at him, eyes sparkling with excitement. For the first time, Carlos took a moment to appreciate the beautiful chaos that their life had been, the threads that bound them all, and the narratives waiting to be told. He knew that, together, they could foster a community where every voice mattered, and just like that, he realized life, even with its struggles, could be an incredible journey of connection, transformation, and hope. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to catch the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video. Please leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach others who need to hear these truths. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this unforgettable ending. Let us spread the message together. Share it with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support can make all the difference.